South Africa. And what do you think about the President's National Cabinet? It forms part of our poll question of the day. So send us your thoughts at the agenda_SABC. We'll take a look at some of your comments in a short while. Meanwhile, Lawson Naidoo from the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution joins us now live for more reaction. Mr. Naidoo, thank you very much indeed for your time. You would agree putting together a cabinet is a difficult assignment. That's understating it a bit. The President has a whole lot of issues to balance. You happy with his choices?
Well, I think, the President has done the best that he could in the circumstances. I think we would have liked firstly to have seen a much trimmer national executive, and whilst the size of cabinet itself has been reduced, the number of deputy ministers has not. And I think, this demonstrates the difficult task that the President had in assembling a team and keeping, various stakeholders happy and on board. So, but I think the key portfolios, certainly in the economic ministries, I think the President has certainly got his preferred candidates in, being Tito Mboweni and Pravin Gordhan at finance and public enterprises, respectively. I think those are the key ministries in terms of the President's desire to start to rebuild the economy, to ensure that there's fiscal consolidation and create the opportunity to provide a basis for job creation.
Yeah. Look, let's look at the economy and the impact that this cabinet would have. One of the portfolios that will be key in this is public enterprises. Mr. Pravin Gordhan back at public enterprises. We know the EFF are among those criticizing this appointment. Legally speaking, Mr. Naidoo, by filing an application to review the Public Protector's report in the High Court on Tuesday, does that mean that the finding is now in abeyance, thereby giving the President an opportunity to appoint Mr. Gordhan?
Well, I think there is a difference of legal opinion as to whether the act of submitting a review application suspends the validity of the report itself. But whether or not that is the case, in any event, the Public Protector's remedial action in this matter was that the President must reprimand Mr. Gordhan if it's agreed that he was in fact guilty of maladministration. And that certainly would not be a bar to him being appointed to cabinet. And in any event, I think the strength of the now minister's review application, and certainly on my reading of the Public Protector's report, is that it is deeply flawed. I think there are many questions around the timing of the release of that report, coming a mere 2 days after the minister made his submissions on her draft report, shows that that there was undue haste in releasing it.
What do you think, in terms of outside of our borders, the reaction would be in the appointing of Mr. Pravin Gordhan?
Well, I think the reaction internationally, and certainly from the international investor community, would be a positive one, because there's stability in those two key ministries that I've mentioned, finance and public enterprises. And I think the markets have reacted to that, and seeing that in those key areas, the President's agenda will continue, that Mr. Gordhan will continue to clean up state-owned enterprises. Mr. Mboweni will keep a firm hand on the public expenditure at the Treasury. Yeah. And I think those send very, very positive signals to the markets.
Mr. Naidoo, what's your take on the choice for the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Mr. Ronald Lamola? Our research team tells us that he has 2 master's degrees in corporate law and extractive law. He is a qualified lawyer. He has his own law firm. This appointment also talks to, I guess, the generational mix consideration. Right man for the job?
In my mind, in many respects, the highlights of this cabinet announcement was the appointment of Mr. Lamola. It's a welcome appointment to have somebody who has a clear grasp of his area of responsibility, and as you say, brings a youthful dimension to cabinet. So I certainly welcome the appointment of Mr. Lamola, and I certainly hope that he will be able to get the justice system functioning far more effectively than it has done.
Home Affairs, an important department, system upgrades, modernizing offices, meeting service delivery standards consistently. The magnitude of the work is immense. The Home Affairs Minister is now Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. What's your take?
Well, I think Dr. Matsuledi didn't really distinguish himself in his previous portfolio at health. You know, his heart was certainly in the right place, but I think the jury is out on his effectiveness there. And I think this is a very big job at Home Affairs, and we'll have to see whether he's going to be able to pull together a very large and complex department to deliver on some key issues, increasing efficiency, and ensuring that the functioning of the department is enhanced, and the issues around issuing of ID books, passports, and the like is done without undermining the system.
Well, replacing him as Minister of Health is Dr. Zweli Mkhize, former Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, a qualified medical doctor, which helps. For 2018, an estimated 13.1% of the total population was HIV positive. National health insurance is another issue, making sure that all citizens of South Africa have adequate, essential health care. You would agree? Is he up to the task?
Well, I certainly think that Dr. Mkhize's experience and background makes him well suited for the position. We'll have to see how he performs in this new portfolio, moving across from another one. But he's certainly eminently qualified for it. But again, this is a department that has many, many challenges. As I say, access to healthcare is one of the key challenges that we face in South Africa, dealing with the HIV/AIDS endemic. As well as putting together a plan for the national health insurance system that the government is committed to doing, and seeing how that rollout is going to happen, whether it's going to happen incrementally, how it's going to be funded, and so on. So we look forward to seeing what Dr. Mkhize puts on the table.
Over the last 4 or 5 days, there's been a lot of debate as to who our deputy president will be. Mr. David Mabuza, he appeared before the ANC's Integrity Commission before being sworn in as a member of parliament. Do you think he has benefited from going to the commission in the eyes of the public?
Well, I don't think he has, actually. I think it's probably backfired because there's no evidence in the public domain as to what was discussed in an internal ANC meeting. So that's really a matter for the ANC. But I think it was almost to be expected that Mr. Mabuza, as the deputy president of the ANC, would resume his position as deputy president of the country. And I think the speculation over the last few days was unnecessary. And I think it was a bit of a sideshow that the fact that his swearing in was postponed. But he's there now as the deputy president, and he will be part of cabinet operating under the direction of the president.
I want to look at the relationship, Mr. Naidoo, with regards to the president and deputy president. If you look down the line and zoom in on the relationship between past presidents and deputy presidents, is there a natural competitiveness there, or has it been complementary?
Well, I don't think it's been competitive because, in terms of the Constitution, the deputy president has no original powers. He's there to assist and work at the behest of the president. So the deputy president gets allocated responsibilities by the president, and the relationship between the two will really determine the kind of responsibilities that get allocated. Now, if we go back and look at the first democratic government from 94 to 99, and certainly after the government of national unity ended in 96, then Deputy President Thabo Mbeki played a very key role in the administration of government, really running cabinet rather than President Mandela. And that was, a complementary role of the two. The Deputy President was really, in charge of government departments and coordinating the work, whereas the President was very much the statesman, seeking to build national unity, to portray South Africa on the international stage. But I think now we'll likely see a very different kind of relationship with President Ramaphosa playing the coordinating role and taking up the majority of responsibilities. And we'll have to see what tasks get allocated to Deputy President Mabuza.
Well, apart from the president, deputy president, ministers, deputy ministers, we should also be looking very carefully at the DGs, you would agree, the director generals of the various departments, as well as, because, the DGs are key to service delivery.
Absolutely. This is where I think the president has perhaps missed a trick here. But I think he should not have appointed as many deputy ministers as he had, and rather boosted the capacity of the civil service by appointing more senior civil servants, because that's the coalface of where the actual delivery takes place. And I think we certainly need to strengthen and professionalize the public service and not have arbitrary political appointments that don't speak to service delivery and don't speak to enhancing the capacity of government departments to serve the people of South Africa.
Lawson Naidoo from the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, we thank you for your insight and perspective. We will chat to you soon. Thank you very much indeed.